As I neared the playground, I heard it, a soft, eerie melody like a child's music box, barely audible at first but unmistakable. It was a nursery rhyme, the kind you might hear at a child's birthday party, but slowed down, twisted. The note seemed to waver in the air, bending unnaturally. I stopped in my tracks, heart pounding in my chest. The swings, which had been still just a moment ago, were now gently swaying as if an invisible hand had pushed them. No wind, just motion. I glanced around, half expecting to see someone, anyone standing nearby, but the playground was empty. Ring around the rosy. The tune continued, barely a whisper now, as if the trees themselves were singing. Pocket full of posies. I swallowed hard and forced myself to step forward. I didn't know why, but I had to know. I had to see what was happening. The sound grew louder as I approached the swings. They creaked with each movement, metal scraping against metal, as though they were struggling to stay on their chains. The merry-go-round spun slowly, despite no one being near it. And then I saw something that froze me in place. At the far end of the playground, near the slide, stood a figure. A small, pale child, their face turned away from me. They were dressed in old-fashioned clothes, kind children might wear in photographs from a century ago. Their hair was dark and matted, hanging limply around their shoulders. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My mouth went dry, and every instinct screamed at me to turn and run. But my feet wouldn't move. It was as if the ground had swallowed them whole, anchoring me to the spot. The music played on, now louder, more insistent, filling my ears like an unwanted memory. Slowly, the child began to turn, ring around the rosy. I wanted to scream, but no sound came. The child's face was hollow, dark pits where eyes should have been. Their mouth a twisted, unnatural grin. Their skin was as pale as the moonlight filtering through the trees, almost translucent, pocket full of posies. The voice the one singing wasn't coming from the child. It was everywhere, surrounding me, seeping into my bones. The child took a step toward me, their movements jerky, like a marionette controlled by invisible strings. And then another step, and another. I willed my legs to move, but they stayed rooted in place. The air around me felt thick, oppressive, like I was standing at the bottom of a deep well. I could barely see now, my vision swimming in and out of focus as the child drew closer. The music, that awful, twisted music, drummed in my ears, each note sharper than the last. Ashes, ashes. The child was inches from me now. I could see their lips moving, but no sound came out. Their face was wrong to smooth, to doll-like, with those empty sockets staring up at me. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst. I could feel cold fingers wrapping around my wrist, pulling me toward the swings. I tried to scream, but my throat was tight, as though someone had stuffed it with cotton. The child's grip was icy, unnatural, and they tugged harder, dragging me toward the merry-go-round. The music swirled and echoed in a dizzying loop. We all fall down. I fell to my knees, my body weak and trembling. The child still holding my wrist in their deathly cold grip. They began to hum now, low and guttural. Their voice not like a child's at all, but something far older, far darker. My head spun, the world around me blurring, as the merry-go-round spun faster and faster without anyone touching it. Suddenly, everything stopped. The music, the motion, the child. I gasped for breath, pulling my wrist free and scrambling back toward the path. The playground was silent again, the swing still. The merry-go-round at a dead stop. The child was gone, as if they had never been there at all. But the silence was worse. It pressed down on me, thick and suffocating, broken only by the faintest echo of that haunting melody. I turned and ran, not daring to look back. I could still feel the cold touch of those fingers on my skin, and I knew, deep down, that the playground wasn't done with me. No one ever talked about it, but everyone knew the playground wasn't just haunted, it was hungry.